was a great meeting. They understood what I wrote and they said, well, we don't care if you're staff, or we believe in you. We will get you jobs. And that is the right thing to hear. And that was great because I was in scripted. I was in TV. I was in comedy. I'm like, I'm going to be a network executive. And if you've met me, you know that would never have happened because I'm a dumbass in that aspect. I'm a real simpleton. I do not belong in this industry. I don't care about like buzz or cool things or cool people. I'm like me. I am so selfish and narcissistic and egotistical. I'm like, I only care about what I like.
Okay, guys. Hi. We are back with the Hollywood Hang, and we have a very special guest today. It is Meredith Dawson. A friend from a party is how I would describe how we met, but I've just been obsessed with you on Instagram. We'll get into some of the things I've learned about you from Instagram as well. But before that, I wanted to talk about Meredith's intense background, which is that she got a break as a writer on 2 Mindy Kaling shows, Champions and 4 Weddings and a Funeral. She was most recently a co-EP on Everybody Still Hates Chris. And on the feature side, because she can do both, she is attached to direct the romantic comedy that she wrote, When Carrie Met Michael and Other People, with Paul Feig and Feig co-producing. She is also currently adapting Stacey Abrams' novel, Rules of Engagement, with Stacey and Kerry Washington producing for Universal. Casual.
I'm busy. I'm tired. What a nice intro. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. We have done like a similar conversation over on my like Slack Zoom, but you are one of the funniest, most engaging people that I know. I feel often that writers can be a little shy and
They can be losers. Just say losers.
And you are nothing of the sort. So I am very thankful and excited for you to be here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Mental illness can sometimes be a blessing.
So what I do want to start and get into is kind of, I love a lore. Like I want to know your lore about why you decided to be a writer. If you were always planning on being a writer, or if this was like something that happenstance once you found yourself in this industry.
It's very interesting because my brother is 6 years older than I am. That's important because I grew up like playing by myself essentially. So I would play house by myself and I would tell the story of like, all right, honey, I'm home for dinner. What's for dinner? So I would play all the parts. Now I think about it, this is sort of sad. But at a very early age, I was telling stories to myself and putting my brain in different perspectives and being different characters. So I think that is the little seedling that was planted. And then I went to, I loved Lizzie McGuire. And now I'm segueing to this. When I was 14, I was obsessed with her. And it was that age where you just become obsessed with someone. You want to know everything. And so I learned that Hilary Duff lived in Burbank. So at 14, I was like, I'm moving to Burbank. That's where my dreams are going to be. And then I learned more about LA. And when I was applying to colleges, I was like, I want to be a producer. I didn't know what it meant, but that was what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to be in LA because that's where Hilary Duff was. So I went to Northwestern and I was a film major and I had written there and I liked writing, but I never was like, I'm going to be a writer because that seemed crazy. And I had all these internships in LA over the summers. And so my first one was in casting and talent. And it was unpaid. And I was like, this sucks. I'm poor. Your girl needs money. And all the internships that paid were at agencies. So I was like, I'm going to get me an agency job. And so through, best friend in college's sister, that whole connection, someone who actually was working at UTA at the time, I think she had just started, and she put me up for an internship. And so the summer after my junior year, I interned at UTA and I was like, oh, this is it. I wanted to be the Black Ari Gold. I wanted to be a talent agent. That was my dream. I wanted to have my little Audi A4. I wanted to scream my assistant. I wanted to be busy in a suit. Like that was the dream. So I graduated and I got a job at UTA. And that was my first job. And I was like, this is it. Everything's coming true. And then I slowly started to hate my life. It took about a year and a half to realize that I did not want to be an agent. In fact, I probably was the worst suited person to be an agent. But I didn't really know what to do next. And I liked writing, but it felt like saying, I want to go to the moon. Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be a writer. So I focused on being closer to writers. I left UTA and I went to go work at a production company. So I was working in television and it was scripted, but it was drama. And I was like, okay, this is fine, but I don't like drama because I'm goofy, fart noise, dick stuff, classic. So then I went from that job to working at CBS, the network on the buying side. And that was great because I was in scripted. I was in TV. I was in comedy. I'm like, I'm going to be a network executive. And if you've met me, you know that would never have happened because I'm a dumbass in that aspect. So I very quickly was like, okay, I can't do anything before I go home. Let me at least try the writing thing. So then as soon as I told people I wanted to be a writer, everything just sort of fell into place in an insane way where this assistant I worked with at UTA was working for an agent who had a client who got an overall deal, was looking for an assistant. So I interviewed with him and I got the job. And it was one of those things where you knew that your life would change forever. And boy, oh boy, did it. I worked for, his name was Charlie. He was a writer on the Mindy project. He was an EP on it, but he also had an overall deal and was developing a pilot. So I was with him for 2 years. And with him, that was sort of my foray into writing of like, this is where I belong. Because I got to see how a writer's life was. I'm like, this is it. Why would I do anything else? And it just felt like right place, right time. Thank God it worked out the way it is. So that's my lore of like trying to do anything else but writing and then being like, all right. And then it happens.
I need to know, were you also obsessed with the Lizzie McGuire, or are they called outtakes? What are, bloopers?
Bloopers at the end? Yeah, of course.
The bloopers were what convinced me that I was like, this looks great. These people are having so much fun at their job. Like, I want that too. That is interesting for all of us, I think. We all did I was a personal assistant, so not quite the same as you two, but you both very much lived like the trajectory of what I think is, I don't know if it is today, but it's still the most common way to kind of find your place in this industry.
Yeah. When people ask me what should I do, I'm always like, go work on an agency because that gives you at least stability of like a place to go and meet people because that's the most important thing. But also gives you time to learn. I think a lot of people are like, I want to be a writer when I start. I'm like, no, your writing sucks. You need to live your life and suffer a little bit. And just being at an agency, you just essentially learn about the business. And I find that has been an upper hand as opposed to just starting in production or whatever, because you meet people and you learn how things work essentially. So I am blessed to have those scars.
I feel like that though, there's no faster place to suffer than at the agency.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious. So you obviously are a really talented writer, but you have kind of like a very outgoing personality to where I feel like if you wanted to, you could produce, you could be an agent. So what was it about that environment or that job where you're like, oh, I cannot, like, were you too nice?
No. Oh God, I've never felt nice in my life. I was always just jealous of the clients. I'm like, wow, I wish I was doing this. And that's never good when you wish you were the client. But yeah, I could have been, this is Meredith Dawson. You know who's really having a moment right now? Like I could have done it, but I would not have lasted.
That's all it takes.
It all it takes. But I also just like don't want to socialize. I want to just be alone at home all the time. And that's writing.
You gravitate right now towards features for that reason? Or are you like, I could go back to a room?
I like to do both. I want to have my cake and my Cheetos.
That is very impressive. I also feel like to you, I mean, I obviously really like you, but do you think that was part of your game? You were like, people will like me and I will leverage that to find my next job because you bound, like you were like, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to get this job.
I've never felt confident that people like me. So I don't know if it's that, but I can portray confidence in an interview. I think that was kind of it. And what was nice about having worked at UTA and all those jobs is that I knew how to be an assistant. I knew how to do stuff. I knew how to make phone calls and get things done. So I think there was that kind of it. But I definitely did not want to leave a job until I had another job. So there were so many other jobs I didn't get that I sobbed over that I'm very happy I didn't, but it took a while.
You have a time frame where you were like from getting your first internship to being like, I have a job as a writer that I believe that this is.
Oh yeah, of course. I remember every day. So my first internship, technically it was the summer after was my freshman year summer. My mom wouldn't let me leave and be on my own. So it was in Chicago. But summer of 2010 was my first taste of Hollywood. And then I started my first day at UTA on August 17th, 2012. I left around December 13th, 2013. And then then the next job was about 8 months. And the next job after that was like about 5 months. But my first day working for Charlie was about February 13th, 2015.
Wow. I forgot. We did discuss this. You're really good with dates. Nick, I don't know if you have this skill. I have no recollection.
I do not.
I can remember like numbers for some reason, but I don't remember what I wore yesterday.
I don't know, like, okay, you don't remember what you had for breakfast yesterday then either. It's just numbers.
No, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know I had a coffee and that's kind of it.
Yeah, the answer is writers don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Just straight coffee to the dome. Guys, that show last night, they were doing coffee enemas. Am I saying that word right?
I don't like what that is. What is that?
It's
wait, are you back on apple cider?
Yeah, I can't get away from it. Did you get to that part? They do coffee enemas.
Is that where something goes inside me and it's coffee?
But you're up your...
Isn't that kind of like a fashionable thing to do these days? Like in the sort of health community?
Yeah, that is what the show, that they think that this is helpful. And then one doctor is like, oh, in fact, no, that is not a safe...
The coffee part of it is healthy? Because for me, that is a one-way street. Things are only coming out.
No, it is. Yeah, it's that. It's the other way. We are just... So you'll just be drinking your coffee regularly.
Yeah, coffee comes out that way.
Perfect.
Soft pass, the emphasis on the soft.
Exactly.
I want to go back to the writing thing. So what was your first big writing job?
I was a staff writer on the NBC comedy called Champions, created by Mindy Kaling and Charlie Grandy.
And how did that opportunity come about? That was from the Charlie relationship?
Yes, because he had created with Mindy. And so it was very funny because normally I would be the one reading submissions and being like, you should hire this person. I'd be like, well, what about me? And it was he had obviously read my material, and so he knew, he wasn't like, you're hired, but he was aware that I wanted to write, but he couldn't be like, you're hired, because there's a lot of things you have to figure out. And I had to get the approval from Mindy, and my sample had been sent to her. And this is during the Mindy project, and there was this, I'll never forget this day, that one morning I was coming into the office and I got in the elevator with her, which never happened. And so I'm just dying, just being like, okay, don't fart, don't fart, don't fart. And she turns to me and goes, oh, by the way, read your sample. It was really funny. And then that was it.
Oh, wait, I want to go. I need you to tell us about your sample, because I forget that this is like, I think Nick talks about it sometimes on TikTok, like write the craziest, like the thing that only you can write. And like, that is what is going to be it for you.
Tell us about the sample.
Because the sample this is the sample Mindy was talking about, right? The sample is insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I find tragedy to be very funny. Like, that is what makes me laugh, is terrible, terrible things. And someone gave me the advice that write what I know and what I will care about. So I think some people ask us, like, what should I be writing? You're like, what's hot right now? And that's never the way to go. It's what are you excited about? Because people can tell. And so I love history. And I was like, you know what? Let me write a comedy about slavery. So it is about two very nice white people in 1830s Charleston who inherit land in the South, and they have to buy slaves for the first time. And so it's them living with this Black family, and they're like, we're so sorry, like, we do not believe in slavery, but like, you know how it is. It's sort of like a ensemble comedy, and it's called Yes, NASA.
Like, that is, to me, peak being like, this is, and Nick, we talked about this. Someone's really going to love it, or someone's going to be like, crazy, not my cup of tea, my fat friends. But like, when you find that people are like, yes, like you did the thing, like, I think that's the risk that is worth taking.
Yeah. And, people have different terms for these types of scripts. A lot of the ones on the blacklist, you hear them get called stunt scripts, almost like they're not necessarily, sometimes if they're done in a poor fashion, then people will call them gimmicky or whatever. Mm-hmm. So when you were approaching that idea, were you kind of like, oh, this is like kind of a buzzy, crazy idea? Or were you just like, this is just purely me, this is my voice? Because sometimes people are consciously like, how do I write something that like everyone will look at the concept and be like, what? That's crazy. I have to read that. Or were you just kind of like, this is me, this is my voice?
The latter. I'm a real simpleton. I do not belong in this industry. I don't care about like buzz or cool things or cool people. I'm like me. I am so selfish and narcissistic and egotistical. I'm like, I only care about what I like. So I was like, slavery makes me laugh, and that this is really, it is just a family story set in a terrible location and time period. So I was just like, genuinely, what is what I care about? Because there is if you ask my representatives, there is a big difference in scripts that I have been hired to write and scripts that I want to write.
What would your reps, what would that be? Like, what do they say? They're like, oh, your heart is slightly here or not 100% here.
You can just like tell them when I'm having fun and then when I'm being paid to do something. And I don't care about it. But I care about everything I work on.
I think that's real though. And I think, okay, so Meredith, that's a question that's kind of like not talked about that much. What percentage of your work is your idea, you love it, or that someone has brought you something and you're getting paid to do their work?
I actually kind of alternate between the years because there are years when I make zero money because I'm writing something I'm excited about, a spec script. And then there's years where I have bills to pay, where I'll try to do open writing assignments. I mean, I do joke, but I will only try and go for jobs that I do care about, because if I don't care about it, it will be so fucking bad and I'll never work again. So I do try to find things that there's something in there exciting and people who will let me sort of make it my own. But sometimes you are hired to write, and I have to put that aside and be like, I am delivering what I am asked to be delivered. So there are those every now and then. That I would say is only features, because in TV I would die.
Can you talk a little bit about because I think that this is interesting for listeners to hear a little bit about the open writing assignment game, how you got into that, explain to people what it is, because I've gone down that path and found myself in some dark places where I'm, pitching a Peeps Marshmallow movie to company, and I'm like, why am I here? No one's going to get hired for this. What's been your experience with OWAs?
Oh my God, Peeps. I have a folder called Cemetery, and it's where all of the all the work I've done that went nowhere is sitting in. It's filled with files. For every 50 things I will go for, maybe I'll get it. So it's just a lot of free work. But it's usually that you start with the writing sample, like the feature sample, and then it gets sent out, and then you have generals meet with people, and then that's sort of how you get in the OWA game. And it's a game you always lose, but you still got to play. And I find that they're either the big rat races were like, we're doing a big Hasbro, and you're one of 9 million people, and there's so many steps, and it's never not you, but you're like, but what if it's me? And that's how they get you. And then there's the versions where producers, you have to know the producer specifically, like, hey, we have this idea. We sort of want to watch, what if a flower, they pitch you their idea and they're like, we're meeting with a small couple of people and it's you and 4 other people, and then it gets whittled down. There's also those. They're both quite painful. But, sometimes it works out. The Stacey Abrams thing was an open writing assignment. So that was something that I was really excited about and really cared about and really, really, really worked hard to try and get. So sometimes it works out.
What did that process look like? Like your team heard about it and they told you and you were like, I have a unique pitch for this. Like, what was the actual steps of the Stacey Abrams?
I met generally at Carrie's company like 5 years ago. So I knew Pilar, and then I think maybe the rights had just been acquired by Universal. And I remember getting the book, like the submission email on like maybe April 29th, right before the strike. So it was sort of that. Because I remember it was like the day before the strike. It was like April 30th or April 29th. And I'm like, I'm not touching this until the strike is over. So like the day the strike was over, then I read it and I was like, why did I read this earlier? So I read the first book, and it sort of starts off with, here's what you like about the book, and here's what I would do in my version of the movie. I would change this and do this. And it became like a sort of a long process back and forth to get the pitch ready for Universal. Because there was a lot in the book, and it was sort of figuring out what stays, what goes, what can be changed, and figuring that out, because Spy World is really hard, as I have learned. But it was about from the day that I got the submission and then the strike until the pitch was officially purchased was about a year.
Do you think if the strike hadn't happened, it would have been about 6 months or whatever? Do you think it was?
Yeah, I think usually like from submission to pitching to the studio is, I would say, like 6 month process on average. God, that's long.
That is a long period. And do you think, obviously you're an amazing writer, is there like another skill that you think helps you in those OWA, like on your pitches? Like, what is the one thing that you're like, I'm bringing this to the table and I know I've got it?
It is because I think I am extroverted. That is very helpful. Something that I did not know when I entered the profession of writing is that you have to pitch and you have to verbalize and talk to people.
Perform.
So there is an art of performance to it. And I did theater in high school. I was not a theater kid. I was a jock. I just want to make that clear. I was a cool jock, not a theater kid.
Are you serious?
We're gonna have to go back and be like, we took a few interviews with Meredith's classmates who in fact did not agree that she was a jock.
I was on the varsity track and cross country team.
That makes sense for why you're such a marathon runner now. Okay.
Yes.
Wait, so is this like High School Musical? Like you were the jock who also really
I was
deep down.
Bolton.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't good at theater, so It didn't matter, but I did like little church plays when I was younger. So being on stage was not performing was not a foreign skill. I will say that. So that's something that I think I've had to learn is telling a story, which is really because I've never been in any other writer's pitch, but I've been told is that my pitches are fun because I'm always like, okay, so we're in this and then we're doing that. And I try to make it a performance because it's so boring to listen to and I'm bored doing it. So I try to make it a little bit more fun if you have to be on the receiving end.
Well, yeah, I want to ask you about pitches because I was going to bring that up. I was going to say you feel like someone that you're like you probably kill the room when you're pitching something that's funny. And as someone who's pitched a lot of comedy, like and when I first started, I was pitching in the room, and then everything switched to Zoom, and like when everybody mutes themselves, and it's supposed to be this big comedy pitch, and people you want to hear laughs and that kind of stuff. There's also just an energy that is really hard to keep someone's attention on the screen. So can you talk about just pitching a little bit? And then also, do you still do most of your pitches on Zoom? Like, because I feel like you just have an energy as a person. So how do you command the room when the room is a bunch of little boxes of people?
It's the Zoom. I put my pages up in front of anybody. So I'm very selfish and self-focused. So I do not see anybody else. I am performing for me and my dog. So I'm looking at people, then I'm like, oh no, because I will really get in my head if you see them on their phone or whatever. So I just look at me and I look at my dumb face going, "Ah, da, 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 da," and then that just makes me laugh. But yeah, I have only done Zoom, and now it's kind of wild to think that at some point I used to go into someone's office with a big giant corkboard, with little post-it notes and pointing to what happened. That was not my area of expertise.
Is that how you went in real life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't want to look at a paper and I wanted to look up at people, but I have a bad memory and I cannot. This is why I quit theater, is because I cannot remember anything except numbers.
This is my pitch issue. The one right before the strike that I got to go in and do the pitch, I had literally printed out tiny pieces of paper, like note card, like that I could flip through because I have no memory. I don't know what the drugs did to me in high school well, in college mostly, but like there is nothing retaining up here. So Zoom makes me feel a little bit better because I can have my follow along paper.
Exactly. I also have brain damage, but just from life and not from being cool or having friends.
Is it from the marathon running?
I don't know what it's from. I think it's probably early Alzheimer's.
I'm convinced I have that as well.
Yeah. Dementia. We all have it.
I have one more question about pitching. So what would you tell people in terms of like, one more time going back to the OWA thing, because you did mention that like most of those things you're not going to get, right? I know a lot of writers who are like, I will not even mess with that. Like, I just want to write specs and I want to try to acquire jobs that way. I think early on in my career, I got the first OWAs I pitched on. So I was like, oh, this is how you make money. And then I went like a full year of pitching on every single thing that came in and got nothing and learned that a lot of people, like nobody got hired for a lot of those jobs. So do you still think it's worth like doing both, like writing your own stuff, pitching on stuff? Is it worth it to just be getting FaceTime and pitching anything to people to create connections, to have them remember you? You still would encourage people to pursue those opportunities, even though most of them are going to end in free work?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is an inevitable you have to accept about this industry, is that like, you have to keep working, and it is I'm not in a place where I have the choice to be like, I'm not going to do this. If there's an opportunity for a job, I'm like, yes, to take it, because you have to try, and you never really know what may come of it. Like there have been jobs that you would everyone's going to get, but then you do have that thing of like, hey, you were really nice to work with or whatever, and they bring you something else. I just think better or worse, that the world of possibility is so large when it comes to this. So I'm always like, yes, you should try. And it does suck to have all those whatever's, but you never know. Maybe you create a character you like. Maybe you have a location you like. You always learn something new. You're building on top of a portfolio as a writer. And I think that's the most important thing. So I'll probably never get jobs, but it's good for me to try and to figure it out, and maybe something will come up. And if not, who knows? It's worth the effort.
Are you ever able to repurpose those cemetery ideas and use them for other things, or do you just kind of let it be?
I let it be. I like laugh at it, but I let it be. Maybe I will steal a character's name or like a small part of it, but it's usually something that someone brought to me, and I ain't trying to get sued.
In that, you were kind of saying like you take something away from everything. You learn something from everything that you're trying to do, every pitch that you go on, every OWA. Is there a piece of advice or something that you've learned while trying, like when you first started writing your script? Like what was the one piece of advice where you were like, this is helping me make it through this first jump?
Go where you're wanted. That was something that my first boss, Charlie, told me, go where you're wanted. Because a lot of times you can kind of pick up on vibes, and it sucks when someone's like, hey, look, we have this kind of idea, like whatever, like they don't care about it and they don't really care about you, and then you go on it, it will be unpleasant. But a lot of times, someone was actually just asking me about this. My friend has, she's taken on a TV idea, and she had 2 meetings with 2 producers. One is a bigger producer, but they wanted to change it to something else. And the other one was kind of a much smaller, but they really got her idea. It was kind of thing of like, go where someone wants you and wants your idea. Like, yeah, you can go with the bigger producer, but like, it will be painful. It will not happen and you will not be happy. So it's a kind of thing of like figuring it out with people who understand you and want you for who you are and your voice, because you can't change you. Try. You can't do it. So that was one of the best I went. And that also applies to picking managers and hiring and just anybody in your life. It's important to have a good roster. So going where you're wanted is very important.
We were just talking about that, where you could meet someone and you're like, oh, it was a good meeting, but like they wanted me to write a supernatural thing and I only write this like dark drama. And it's like, you could work for a year to try to finagle what they want, or you go find someone who's like, I liked your idea exactly how it was. Let's do that. But I think it's really hard when you're starting out and chances are so few and far between. You're like, I can jump that high. I can do the dance that you want, whatever you're asking.
Oh, yeah, I think when starting out, I definitely had to do more like, I'll do anything. You kind of have to start that way to figure out where you belong. But as the further you get on, you can be a little more selective.
With the managers, like you said as well, I have over the years, accidentally, I've become like people's therapist, where they tell me that they like hate their manager, and that for years, like we don't get along. I don't want to be, but people are so scared to creatively like be alone, and they're like, well, I don't have anyone else lined up, like nobody else. But I think that what people don't understand is like it is better to just not, like, it's okay to tell somebody this is not working out. We're not destined to work together. And I have been the person who's like, people talk to me and then they're like, oh yeah, like I need to just like, it's like breaking up with somebody that you don't know how to break up with, but it is scary because it's like, well, then I'm going to have to be alone. And this person is still in my corner. And it's like, are they in your corner? You just said that you guys are completely not creatively aligned and you've been wanting to fire them for 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wait, when did you get you have agents and managers? You have a lawyer, I would assume, at this point.
Yeah.
So when did all of those people show up in your life?
My route to representation was easy and bullshit because I worked at an agency. And so speaking of go where you're wanted, when I had my sample and I started to look for representation, one company was like, oh, well, it was a assistant, a trainee about to be an agent. It was sort of being pickpocketing. We're like, this is really great, but I can't represent you until you get staff. And I was like, all right, well, that's okay, sure. And then I had another one that was good, but it didn't feel like, and it was a big agency. It didn't feel like they understood my writing and they were suggesting things to me. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then the third one where I ended up was a great meeting. They understood what I wrote and they said, well, we don't care if you're staff, but we believe in you and we will get you jobs. And that is the right thing to hear. I forgot your question. It's coming back to me. I forgot your question.
When did these people all show up in your life?
There it is.
Yes. But that was a really good story because I do think that is endlessly important that they are your champions.
Yes, that was very important. So a person, when I was at UTA, someone I worked with no longer was there and became a manager. So this is why she could do it. But the manager was like, I read your sample. I think it's actually good. I will help you find it. So she sent it to a former colleague of hers around. And then I ended up getting that meeting at CA, which is where I'm represented. And that was she just like sent it there. It was very easy. And I feel like a little brat because there was never like what am I going to do? Because I met with them and then I just signed with them. And then I never wanted managers because I had a bad taste in my mouth about them because working at an agency, I worked in talent, and managers and talent work differently than lit. There's a lot more hand holding. Well, I think there's a lot more hand holding and a lot more shit you had to do. And I was like, I don't need someone to do that for me. Also 10%, damn. And then I made some career mistakes and was like, I need help. And then when that period when the writers had to fire their agents, I was like, let me develop a bunch of television. And I forgot that there were positions. So nobody wanted to be in that last position. So I was like, I need help. And then I was like, okay, let me do the manager thing. And then I met with a bunch of managers and I ended up with people that I felt like I was wanted and understood my material.
Got it. And so did you get the managers after you had
Way
been
later.
way
I
later?
got
Okay.
them. Agents were in.
She's going to
That
give
would
an
have
exact
been.
date.
That would have been like September 15th, 2017, around. And managers, that I don't know. That would have been maybe 20. How many years have I given holiday presents? Let's say 2021 is when I got managers.
Okay. And then where was the lawyer in that?
Lawyer was right after the agents, I would say in early 2018, because they had read the first the first feature I sold. So they had read it. So that was also, I only had 2 lawyer meetings. They had read my sample and come to me and be like, I'll be your lawyer. And I was like, okay.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that lawyers were reading
Neither did I.
things. That's so funny.
See, it's bullshit. My journey is bullshit.
So in your eyes, what do those 3 segments of people like do in your life?
So the agents, my feature agent, actually, a close friend of mine. So I was friends with her before she became an agent. But she handles my career. So if I'm like, someday I want to write a Marvel movie, sorry, I lied. She's the one person who will get me jobs. If I'm like, I need money, she's like, all right, here you go. Here's a writing assignment. Here's this. She will get me the big, broad jobs that are maybe not necessarily the things I would like to be doing for my career. She gets me jobs. And there are lawyers at CAA, but I have a lawyer to do the more tailored things, who know my deals and can spend time doing the individual things for me. And then my managers are the career. If they're the ones who I say, I want to do a Marvel movie, and they're like, okay, what are the steps we take today to get you there today? They're the people, excuse me, when I have my panic attacks, I go, I fucked up. I did something bad. What do I do about it? And they're like, shut up. You're fine. Whatever. They handle me and my brain, essentially. They are managing me as a client. Although I'm not that bad of a client, I don't think. So they're more doing a lot of the following up. They're more the nitpicky. They're the people I can ask to do the annoying things that I wish I could do, but I can't because I'm scared.
But that is, me and Nick were talking just the other day where I was like, I can't really like ask companies that we do influencer deals with anything. Like, this is why I need a manager and agent for these things too, because I'm too awkward to be like.
You were scared to ask for them to pay you for something they should have paid you for.
Yeah. And then you said your manager's like, I'll go do it right now.
Yeah. And they're like, and I'm going to ask for way more money than I was originally offered. You're like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's why we have them.
So with a team like that, and I know this tends to vary writer to writer and depends on relationships and process. If you have if you're going to go write a spec, are you the type of writer to where it's like, I want to go in a room, figure out exactly what I want to write. I'm going to write the whole thing and then send it to my team and be like, here's my new thing. Or are you the type of writer where it's like, you'll send them a bunch of ideas, kind of see what they like? Because I feel like there's kind of a bureaucracy of like getting your team excited about certain ideas that they feel like they can sell and are commercial. And I think it was always my dream to just be like, I want to write whatever I want to write and I'm going to hand it to you and you're going to sell it.
Yeah, that is a dream. It is dependent. I think I'm trying to due to therapy, I'm trying to lean more on other people. So when I have an idea, I will usually just do here's the idea, and that's kind of it, because I will get bogged down and anxious and really get in the weeds. Again, because I am a narcissistic, egotistical asshole, I don't like to collaborate on my writing. I need to go sit in the dark, write the whole thing, and then I will take notes. But as I'm like, it's like trying to make a cake, which is with one hand, trying to make a cake, and someone's like, well, what if you put almond in there? And then we'll put flour. I'm like, yeah, sure, put it all in. Then you end up with a piece of garbage. I need to make my cake, and then we taste it together. I love using cake as a reference. So, but for TV, I usually will like hear my ideas, because TV is that's an actual process. But this past thing, I gave them 3 ideas, and they're like, we don't really get this last idea, and that's the first one I sold. So I always, it's nice to get an opinion, but if I care about it, I will keep going with it.
That's like a confidence that I don't have yet. Like when people are like,
oh,
maybe don't follow that.
It hasn't always worked out, let me tell you that, because there was one thing I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write this. It's so funny. And something like, Meredith, we cannot sell this to anyone, anywhere. And I'm like, okay, well, I wasted a good couple months on that.
Oh, God. I think the fun, at least when you have a good team, for me, because I've always wanted to work in TV, is to have people where you can bounce the ideas off. I haven't found the confidence yet, which is why I text Nick like every day. I'm like, what do you think of this idea? I've been pondering this one right here.
I'll tell you, if you think it's cool, you should just fucking do it.
That is actually the best advice I think that anyone can walk away with from this.
Yeah, because if you thought it was bad, you wouldn't ask anybody because you know it's bad.
That's true. Yeah, I wouldn't be like putting it out into the world.
Exactly.
So for you, since you do like being able to go write alone, what was it like when you're in a writer's room, especially when you have like some like very big wig name people in that room with you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like to brainstorm with them first and then walk away?
Oh, it's great. I can compartmentalize. I was doing Severance before Severance became a show. I am Meredith, the staff writer who is focused on the TV show and the characters. I will not talk about my feature shit unless people ask about it or whatever I'm doing, but I am there. I'm in the characters. And as soon as that room ends, I go back to my hole and I write my little movies.
That is very impressive. Do you take anything that you do in the TV room into your features process?
No, they're two entirely separate parts of my brain, two different people. Meredith in the room is like jovial and like making jokes and working as a team. And Meredith, as a feature writer, wants to be left the fuck alone, doesn't want to talk to anybody, doesn't want to collaborate on shit.
That is a very impressive brain switch.
They're just different kinds of fun. Every now and then I do need, like 20 weeks of being with other people. And it's like nice to have that steady weekly paycheck because it allows you to do the isolated feature writing. But every now and then I'm like, I should be with people and learn. But I do genuinely like love TV. It's so much fun. That's what I started with. So it's just nice. It's also great. You know what? I lied. I did learn something from TV. You learn from the other writers and how they see the world, how they think and how they collaborate and how they solve problems. That is why I love doing it, is because you get to learn from every other person in the room who comes from a completely different place than you do. And that's fucking cool.
That is one of those things where I think it's called Sonder, when you realize how complex every other person's life is. And you're like, oh my God, you've existed. I saw a picture of like my grandma at a dance hall and I was like, I can't believe that you were in like some worlds just strutting your stuff in a dance. Like, it's just so odd to me to think of other people like that when you actually.
Yeah, there's so much more to us than the, hey, how are you? Good, how are you? Which is why I hate small talk.
No, I can't do it. I feel so, I literally look around and I'm like, I've run out of weather. Guys, it's raining today.
Yeah. You guys ever been in a car accident due to rain? See, that's where I go.
I have not.
Guys, an old lady who shouldn't have been driving hit me the other day. Her name was Ginny.
This is where conversation comes from.
It was Ginny. Ginny nailed. Also, we were driving back from a lamp store because did you know that you can still get your lamps fixed? And we had like a really fragile, I don't know, like I'll send you guys a picture, but like a beautiful chandelier, and it was in the back. And I literally got in the car. I told my friend Devin, I was like, let's hope nobody hits us. Ginny comes friggin' flying down a hill. Woman should not have had her license. And I was like, and thankfully somehow like her car was smashed to smithereens, but mine was fine. And I was like, hey, can I get your insurance? She's like, well, your car looks fine. And I was like, well,
give me your insurance.
That's not how it works.
Wait, was your lamp destroyed?
No, it was fine actually.
Okay, great.
But it was just the fact that I had the audacity to say,
you got punished.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that, which is something.
See, this is why I hate small talk, because we learn so much about you by asking, have you ever had a car accident in the rain?
Wait, have you though?
No, not because of the rain.
How many car accidents have you been in?
Not many. I'm a very good driver. The most recent one was like 8 years ago, and it was because it's so dumb. I was on Sunset, and right when you pass the Netflix offices, there's that outdoor school. I had been looking to run on a track, and I noticed it was a track, and I was like, oh, wow, a track. And then I ended up rear-ending somebody. And then someone rear-ended me, and then I rear-ended them again. So that was the last accident I was in.
Oh, my God.
That's rough.
But it was just like a fender bender. No casualties or anything.
That's good. Nick?
No, I've been very lucky. I'm knocking on wood. I think I've been rear-ended, maybe like 10 years ago.
Hi, Meredith.
Sorry. You have to have one little car accident, and then you're a real Los Angelino.
I've gotten a ticket. I just recently got a red light ticket going onto the ramp. Like, you know how there's lights when you're getting out of the highway? This lady cop was behind me, and I saw her, and I said, oh no, there's a cop behind me. And then for some reason, she was like, you ran that red light. And my friend was in the car. Her sister had just died, and she was like, my sister just died, and she's trying to take me to the spa. And I was like, and she was already walking away. And we were just like, she's not going to give us the ticket. She won't do it. Like, first time ticket ever. No. Guys, a $500 ticket.
And that's why women shouldn't be cops, because they're bitches.
I was like, if this was a man, I could have cried and flirted my way out of this one.
Just a little unbuttoning. Oh, well, that's So I fear friend, and also that is a mean comp.
I know. That's offensive. Sorry, we got so off track of your lovely writing career.
I love a tangent.
Okay, so what are you most excited about right now?
I'm heading towards the finishing a rewrite of the Stacey script, and then I have a rom-com spec that I have started, and I just cannot get back to. But that is what is giving me extreme joy, is getting back to that little bad boy.
Did we discuss this one? Is this?
Remember? Yeah, it's about space.
Is it a book? No.
Oh, okay. I was talking probably about 31 Dates is next in line. This is a space rom-com.
Ooh.
Oh.
It's called We Needed Space, and it's about, are you familiar with, I think it's Sunny Williams and Butch, who are the two astronauts who've been stuck in space for months?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did, back in my research about NASA, it's like people who are hired for astronauts are obviously very intelligent, but there's an element to them where they have to be social because you are stuck with these people for long periods of time, and like they have to be like normal, well-adjusted people. And I'm like, well, if you are normal, well-adjusted, and you're very smart, what if you're also hot? Like, you're probably going to, have a romance with someone there. So I'm like wondering, what if you got stuck with your ex-boyfriend in space? And then that to me is what is interesting. So it's these two very ambitious, selfish people who date, become astronauts, and then they break up, terrible breakup. And due to some kind of error, they get stuck in space, and they agree to it because it's space, and it's only supposed to be there for a couple of days, and they end up getting stuck together for 2 weeks. Just the two of them in space.
It's a really good idea. I can't believe no one's done like space rom-com yet.
They're very expensive. I imagine, because you got to fake the whole space part.
Has your team been like, that is very expensive? Or were they just like,
no, they said this was a good contained idea. Because technically you just build the set of the space thing that they're in, CGI that background. It's pretty contained.
Okay, that's exciting then.
Yeah.
And
that gives me joy.
That's the one that you're really excited about.
Yes.
Weren't you working on, you found a book at the library?
Yes, I'm also working on that too. That I'm like staring at it too.
How many projects are you working on right now?
Like 100. I got bills to pay. I do. I am a big juggler, and I do staggered starts. So I set little goals, things I have to do a little bit. So I'm doing a bunch of stuff a little bit every day. So like today, I have to get to page 70 in the Stacey script. Then I will read one chapter in the rom-com book, and then I'll write like 5 pages of the rom-com script. Like I do like little bits, but it's every day.
Where do you keep this?
In my brain. Oh, I have a little, that's not true. I have a notebook, and every day I write the date and what I want to do by the end of the day.
Oh, that's nice.
My to-do list.
That's like very tangible to me, that like you're like these 10 pages, one chapter.
Mm-hmm. Because I find a lot of times, not me because I'm crazy, but I think normal people feel overwhelmed by writing of like, I should be writing today. And I think that you're selling yourself to failure as opposed to, I'm going to write 5 pages. Then you've written, you've done it, and you can keep going if you want to, but at least you feel accomplished, as opposed to, I got to be writing. Like, you don't know when you can stop, and then there's guilt when you can stop. So I just say 5 pages, I've done it, I can keep going, but at least I did what I wanted to do today.